Okay, in this video we will continue the process of changing atoms to ions. In the last video, we looked at what happens when atoms lose electrons, so let's look this time at what happens when atoms gain electrons. So if an atom gains one or more electrons, it goes from being neutral to being negative because you've gained negative electrons. And the name of an ion that is negative is anion. Okay, it's an ion. Funny sounding name probably, and you could probably make up all kinds of jokes about what it also could be pronounced like. But let's look at an example. Chlorine is an example of something that will gain electrons. And if you remember, just give you a little preview, something has to be giving electrons. So sodium in the previous video is willing to give electrons, and here's chlorine that needs an electron or wants an electron. And when it gets the electron, it becomes this chlorine -1 ion, which we call the chloride ion. Now, other things can often look at, looking at the charges, gain or lose more than one. So we're gaining now. So this is a -1 because it gains one electron, but some things can gain 1, 2, or 3 electrons. And if you notice the pattern here, we never go above 3 electrons that are being transferred, generally speaking. So here's oxygen. Oxygen is a gainer of 2 electrons, and we're going to look in one of the final videos about how we know that. Here is the oxide ion. It's -2, and again I put the sign afterward just because there's a tradition. So we have the chloride ion and the oxide ion. So let's have a look there at how we name these things. Anions have a more complicated naming system, because in these you have to take the root of the element name and then you add the "ide" ending. So ions that are composed of only one atom that have gained an electron always have the "ide" ending. So chloride ion, oxide ion. Some other things that might do this: bromine becomes the bromide ion, iodine becomes the iodide ion. Okay, now, how do we know whether or not something gains or loses? Well, we have a handy dandy little thing, the periodic table. Let me get this thing out of the way, and let me give you the overall easy way to tell this. If it's a metal, and hopefully you know from making your own periodic table, anything to the left of the stair-step line is a metal, then it is a loser of electrons, and anything to the right of the stair-step line is a gainer of electrons. So metals are losers, nonmetals are gainers. Okay, so let's look at how we can use the periodic table specifically for certain elements. And what I would do is take my periodic table and add this stuff to it. So if it's group 1A or group just number 1, the very first one, the alkali metals, they all tend to lose 1 electron and become +1 cations. So I would write at the top of that, they're +1. And if it's in group 2, then they tend to lose 2 electrons and become +2 cations. Okay, so group 1, the alkali metals, +1. Group 2, the alkaline earth metals, +2. Now be careful because we're skipping now all the way across to number 13. So the transition metals are not part of this. These things are going to lose, it says lose underneath there, lose 3 electrons and become +3 cations. All right, in the next video, we will look at what happens when things gain electrons.